Hey everyone, Kevin Muldoon here. What I thought I'd do in this video is just kind of tie up my thoughts about the HTC U11. I've owned it for a few weeks now, and if you're looking for a more in-depth review, a closer look at what this can do, then check out my previous videos. I did an unboxing video, I did a lot of camera tests, showed you the operating system, you know, how it was, what it was like using it, etc. The most complete video I did was the video entitled 5 Days with the HTC U11, and I talked about my experience using it every day for 4 or 5 days. In this video, I just want to tie up my thoughts on it. So I purchased this for £600 on the day or the day after it came out in the UK, and it replaced my Google Nexus 6P. And so far, I'm very, very happy with it. But I think for any mobile phone, I've got realistic expectations. I think today there's not a huge amount between mobile phones at the top end as far as design. You know, I've talked about this before, but really you've got a rectangle with the glass. You sometimes got a button, fingerprint sensor on the front or the back. You've got a good camera. You've got speakers. I mean, it's not like years ago there was a lot of variation. These mobile phones are essentially using, the majority of the time, using the same chips and using the, you know, the same cameras sometimes as well, the same camera sensors. One of the reservations that I did have was the battery life. The other one was the lack of a 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, I'm quite pleased to say that battery life is actually pretty good. I've got it on the power saver mode most of the time. When I want to conserve battery, I use the HTC's extreme power saving mode, which kind of makes it into like an old Nokia phone. Strips it down to the basics so that you can only use the phone, calculator, text messages. You can't, essentially switches off data, so it's saving a lot of battery life. So that's pretty useful. I found the battery life is a lot better, but I was coming from a phone that I'd been using for 18 months and the battery on that was, you know, it was kind of dead. That phone had got to the point where it got to 20% and then died. So I've came from a phone that had great battery life and then it degraded, and I've got a new phone. So whether this lasts over time, you know, that's something I can't comment on just now. But battery life has been a lot better than expected. I'm quite pleased with it. Charging is fairly quick with the official charger. For the headphone jack, it's not as bad as I would have thought. I've got Bluetooth headphones for running. I've got the official headphones here. Now these headphones are pretty fantastic from an audio perspective. You plug them directly in. It's USB Type-C. Plug it directly in. There's a digital audio converter in there. I used it on the plane, and you know, it's not going to compare to Bose headphones, but it does cancel, you know, the noise a little bit. The audio quality is very, very good. I just find though the actual comfort, I don't know, they just feel funny in my ears. I just find them uncomfortable. Sometimes I had them in my ears and they didn't feel too bad, but other times they just felt annoying. The other thing is that the actual control, there's just one plain button. You know, in the past, for a long time, the ones that I used with my Google Nexus 6P had, you know, the plus and the minus for skipping tracks for volume. This has a single button, and the button is quite small, so I found myself a lot of the time trying, I had to kind of look down and then see where the button was to try and press the button. So the earphones perform really well, but from a practicality point of view, I find them uncomfortable in the ears, and the play pause button, I just find it annoying. But, you know, they're a free pair, they were thrown in with the box, so it's hard to complain. As I said, you know, there's a lot of Bluetooth headphones out there. They do throw in a 3.5mm to Type-C converter, so you can continue to use your old headphones if you want. The only time that I found it annoying, I was walking around Paris listening to music and I was using these headphones. Now, I was using a lot of video at the time as well. I was taking some videos, and so that my battery didn't go dead, I wanted to charge it. But I couldn't listen to music through these headphones, Type-C, and charge at the same time. You know, with my old phone, I was used to, you know, if I was playing a game, I could charge it, put on headphones, charge it, and use the headphone jack at the same time. But that's not something you can do. I believe there are some converters out there that allow you to, you know, connect two Type-C converters, but it's not something I've tried yet. It's not a deal breaker. But other cool features, it's got waterproofing, which I don't think is a deal breaker for me because it's not something I've ever used. I don't plan on dropping it in water. But if I'm out running and it pours heavily and I've got the phone there, it could maybe save my ass. It's got a micro SD port slot as well. That's really good. As you know, if you checked my video last week, I bought a 256 gigabyte card, which is excessively too much if I'm honest. But I thought, you know, I'll buy it once, saves me having to upgrade it later. The camera seems really good. Now, from a video, like all the tests I did were of the front and back camera, you know, taking videos. Microphones seem quite good. Not perfect, but they seem good. For a mobile phone, they seem pretty good. And I've recorded a few videos directly just using the phone and a microphone. And just using the phone itself without a microphone attached. The videos are good. The front camera struggles. There's no optical image stabilization. Struggles at nighttime as well. But the back camera is really good. It's one of the best. But I do think that, you know, with the biggest difference between a lot of the flagship phones is the camera. It's the camera sensor and it's how it performs. Now, if you look at lots of other reviews, they will go into super detail. You know, they'll talk about, you know, why this one is better than the other. I'm not a great photographer. I'm not great at really examining these kind of things. You know, I've looked at a lot of the reviews of the Samsung S8, the LG G6, Google Pixel, HTC U11, and they're comparing photos and saying this one's oversaturated, this one's got, you know, too much ISO, white balance is off. That's not something I can really cover in my videos because I'm a complete novice. When I shoot videos or photos, I'm going for auto mode 99.9% of the time. You know, I've maybe dabbled with the pro mode, but really I'm going on auto most of the time because I think this phone will be able to figure it out better than I can. So it's not something I'm going to focus in my videos. I think that it's better for me to focus on usability because that's what's important to me. You know, I've not covered a lot of benchmarks. And again, the reason is if you look at other reviews, there's a lot of benchmarks and they talk about the difference in speed and performance. But I think it's kind of nitpicking because when you've got two phones using the same chips, same operating systems, same amount of RAM, you might get slight differences because of, you know, what apps are installed, etc. But you're really not talking about a huge amount. And again, when it comes down to usability, that's what's most important. And this thing is speedy. It's really quick. You can go around the, you know, all the apps really quickly. I'm noticing it being much quicker than the Google Nexus 6P, which is probably around 18 months old, 20 months old now. And I noticed it being quicker than that. But again, I do think with a flagship phone, it's kind of the law of diminishing returns. You get to a certain point and you're paying a lot more money for just a little bit more performance or, you know, features or whatever. And I think that's the case here. I never thought that my Nexus 6P was slow, but this is quicker. So from the camera's point of view, I did take photos in Paris and I was happy with the results. But I'll be the first to admit, if I was holding a Samsung S8, an LG G6, a Google Pixel, an iPhone 7, I would have been happy with the photos as well. In fact, if I go back to my old Google Nexus 6P, I'm sure I would have been happy with the photos I took at the weekend too. So I'm kind of at the point where I think all the cameras on the flagship phones are amazing. But I know other people disagree with that. But again, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm not a photographer. Now, the other cool feature on this phone, the one that they've been boasting about, is Edge Sense. And that's when, I've got it disabled just now actually. When you squeeze the phone, the sides will go and it will launch the camera. Now, I thought this would be a gimmick. Launch the camera there. I thought this would be a gimmick, you know. I didn't know how effective it would be. Day to day, walking around the house, this isn't something I'm using. It's not something I care about. It's not something I'm going to actively use. But when I was walking around Paris, I must admit, it was amazing. It really was amazing. I was, you know, because, you know, I was holding a bag and things like that. I was, you know, I was holding maybe a bottle of water and I was just holding it up, squeezing it and then squeezing it again, and it would take a photo or it would take a selfie. It would take a video as well. If I was recording video before, it will default default to video mode as well. And it is a gimmick, but it is pretty fantastic. I must admit, the Edge Sense thing is really, really cool. You can still double tap to load the screen, like I did there. You can still double tap the power button to load up the camera, like I did there. But the Edge Sense thing, you know, the squeezable thing, it's actually pretty good. Honestly, I would say if you can get a chance to try it with someone, I would give it a shot. I think I'd like to see it in other phones as well. It's that good a feature. I think it's good, especially if you're walking around taking lots of photos and videos. I think it's really, really handy. Again, not a deal breaker, but it's a cool little feature. Overall, though, I'm very, very pleased. This is a fast phone, as you would expect from a flagship. I'm very happy with the purchase. I paid £600, and I think if my advice to anyone out there who wants a flagship, generally speaking, right now isn't the time to buy. I would buy anytime I'm talking about a flagship, I would buy this in like a month or two, maybe 3 months. Android phones tend to drop in price in the UK anyway, from about £600, and then maybe a month or two later they're at 500, 450, sometimes 400 after a couple of months, and you get a much better bargain. You get more value for money. One of the reasons I bought it early is because, one, I needed a phone, but two, because I've got a YouTube channel and I wanted to be one of the first to review it. Now, I've got the OnePlus 5 coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. That's something that I'm keen to review. But again, the important thing to remember about all these phones is there's always compromise. There's no phone that does everything. The OnePlus 5 that's coming tomorrow has a whopping 8 gigabytes of RAM, twice as much as this. It's got the same chip in it, the Snapdragon 835. So you would expect it to be maybe a little bit faster because of the RAM. But there's always sacrifices. The OnePlus 5 doesn't have a micro SD port. It doesn't have waterproofing. So, you know, anytime you buy one of these flagship phones, you need to look at what it's got and what it doesn't have. From a performance usability point of view, I don't think you can go wrong with any of these phones that are out just now. They all have great cameras. They've all got decent mics. They're all using the Snapdragon 835. And it really comes down to the experience that you want. Any additional features. If there's any features you really want, go for that particular phone. What kind of swayed me towards the HTC U11 at the time was the fact that it got really good reviews for the cameras, and the microphones were apparently okay as well. But really, at this point, any phone out there, you know, flagship, I think you're going to be happy. Stay tuned for the OnePlus 5 unboxing and reviews over the next few days. If you get any questions about the HTC U11, this is my daily driver, as people say. It's the phone I'm using every day. I'm very happy with it. And please do check my previous videos where I looked at this more closely. This is really just a summary of my thoughts on this. It's a very, very good phone. And it's good to see HTC back. I went from the M8 and the M9 kind of missed the mark. The HTC 10 kind of missed the mark. But I feel that the HTC U11 has brought HTC back into the fold and made it, you know, a serious contender again. There's not much between these phones though. If I'm honest, they're all good phones and they're all around a similar price range. So it really comes down to what you need and what you don't. Thanks for watching, guys. If you've got any questions, ask a comment below and stay tuned. Whoa, hitting the microphone there. Stay tuned for my next video, guys. I'll be taking a close look at the OnePlus 5.